Could you talk about what it's like to work together every day? And has that changed your relationship? Has it changed it at all?
I think this is going to disgust everybody when we say
Yes.
this. Actually, one of our really big goals was actually to try to work together. So when we were teaching originally back in Canada, we weren't teaching at the same school, and it was really heartbreaking to be apart for so long. And then when we came to Korea, we worked nearby each other, but we still didn't work together. So when it came to making
I
videos
would
for the
only
website,
be happy, I wound up saying to Martina that I would find it ideal if we could teach in the same class and I could just hold your hand as we're up in front of the students, because we never want to be apart. We're practically joined at the hip. So
I just think that we were lucky that it's important to marry someone that's also your best friend, not just like a plain lover without like any of the friend qualities. So we just, Simon to me is like the awesomest person I've ever met, and I want to hang out with him all the time, and he makes me laugh all the time. So working together is awesome.
So we were just really lucky, because when we realized that we could do more with our blog, and we could actually make a full-time living off of living together and being with each other nonstop, then it was like, this is the way that we have to go. We have to do it this way. So we're so happy to be able to be with each other all the time.
You're my best friend.
Bestest best friends.
Cool.
When you hear the word marriage, what do you think?
It's so many different things, because I think about marriage about how I think about marriage, and I think about marriage about how other people perceive marriage. So for a lot of other people, marriage seems to be like an achievement to unlock. It's like, I have now married somebody, I can move on to the next level. It seems like
Next level, have children, purchase property.
It seems like a rung in the ladder that people have to do. While for me, like, marriage was inevitable. Like with Martina, like as soon as we started dating each other, after 2 months, we knew that we were going to be with each other for the rest of our lives. We didn't have to get engaged, we didn't have to get married, because we knew that we would never leave each other.
We didn't want to creep out our family, because I think that kind of thing, especially when we were like 24, 23 maybe when we met.
Yes.
But to tell people like we're gonna get married, people think like, oh, crazy
You're young,
people,
you're
you're stupid. You know how many people told us not to get married, not to, you can still call it off. It's just an engagement. It's all right. And
actually,
I'm like,
our wedding rings, we bought them within 2 months of dating each other, and we wore them on our rings as on our pinky rings as like little secret rings, because we knew that we were going to get married, but we didn't want to tell anybody. So as soon as I actually proposed after a year, we thought that our families would be comfortable with us dating for a year. Then we took the pinky rings and we resized them for our wedding bands.
So we had them like melted down and stretched out and stuff.
So marriage it's like, as a title, we don't like it. Marriage is more like a lifestyle to us. It's like, marriage to me is a full-time job. Everything else is supplementary. So I know a lot of people that work at a company and then they're married like on the side, like, oh, I got to go home to my wife. Well, to me it's like, everything I do wants to supplement the marriage that I'm in.
And this is similar but a little different. Like, why do you think marriage has such a negative tone these days? Like, people hear marriage and like, ball and chain.
Yeah, exactly what I was gonna say when you asked me.
But like, why do you think that is?
I think what's happened is two different things. Like you were saying before, I do think the achievement's a big problem, and the achievement award of getting married is also a lot of pressure from families. So I think that even in Korea, the pressure's still alive the same way how it is in Europe and in Canada. Your family says to you, like, by a certain age, you should be married like I was, or like your grandparents were. But they're not thinking about how times are changing and how marriage was something that people just did, and they didn't really think about love that much, or some people did.
Marriage was
it was to have
before,
kids, yeah.
But now it's not a necessity. Like, if you were on a farm and you needed somebody to help you on the farm, like I'm pretty sure you would get married, you'd have kids, and then your kids could help you on the farm. It's very difficult to run on your own. But now we don't have to do that. So like, if marriage is an option, then it's a difficult option for some people.
So I just think that the pressure of getting married, people make panicked choices, so they feel like either their ovaries are shriveling up or that like their parents are looking down on them, and so they just make the choice to get married. And what I find really upsetting about it is that a lot of the time friends from the outside, they can see that it's not a good match. I mean, I know there are people who are criticized, like they criticized us because we seemed like we were young, but no one ever once thought that we weren't a good match for each other. But I see people who aren't a good match, but everyone just lets them get married anyways, because that's what they wanted to do. And then a couple years later, if that, they get divorced, and then it's like this bitterness sets in. And then that's where I think the bitterness of like marriage, ball and chain, has started, because people are unhappy, they don't want to be married, and they're married from like an outside pressure.
For me, I know before I met Martina, I actually never wanted to get married. I wrote essays about why I never wanted to get married. I was dead serious. I thought marriage was a terrible idea. Like, I saw lots of negative examples of marriage growing up on television and in real life. And I thought to myself, why do I want to subject myself to that? But as soon as I met Martina, I'm like, I am so wrong. And I just ripped up all those essays. I'm like, I know that this is right. So that's a difficult answer for me to give people because I don't want it to seem like it's, a cosmic soulmate kind of thing. Like, I just knew that this is the person that I wanted to be when I met Martina.
It sounds.
This one actually I was going to ask towards the back, but I'll say so now. What advice would you give to someone who just got married?
Okay, who's going to go first?
You go first.
Okay, what if I take your answer and then you're grumpy at me?
I have so many answers. So you go first.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to say is just to never ever take the person for granted, because I think the biggest problem people have when it comes to marriage and relationships, this isn't even a marriage thing, is that you get used to somebody over time. So, they're always around, they're always in the home, they always get me stuff for my birthday, they always do this and that. But I think if you think of that person that way, then you stop thinking of them as someone special and important in your life.
You don't have to work hard at keeping them with you anymore.
Because we're already married, so
like you've already promised me you're gonna stay with me for life, so you're screwed. Haha! I don't have to work hard anymore. While you still should have that effort no matter what.
So we try to make a point with each other at least to still do things like to think about the person a lot so that you can bring them surprises. Like periodically Simon will just show up for no reason with like a little bunch of flowers. And he'll be like, oh, here's some flowers for you. I know you like flowers. And I'm like, thanks, Ducky. And it makes you feel like bumbly and warm because he was thinking about me when he was out. Or if I see a bottle of ranch or like something like a warm cookie and Simon hasn't had something in a while, I'll like bring it home and be like, I found this awesome cookie that I want to share with you. And he'll be like, oh my God, thank you. So if you think about the person a lot, then you don't take them for granted. And if you don't take them for granted, then they don't become sad and miserable and feel like they're not a part of a relationship anymore,
Never let, from my perspective, never let your job, never let what happens outside of your family affect what happens inside of your family. Like your marriage is the most important thing that you should work on forever. So like even for us, if we feel like we're too stressed out at work or anything, like we know no matter what the situation is, if work becomes too overwhelming, then screw work. The only thing that matters is us being happy with each other.
Yeah.
You know?
One of the biggest problems we've seen, at least, and this happens a lot in Korea and also in North America, is people will try to climb the ladder because they want to bring in money for their family, and they're doing that for their family. So there's good intentions. The problem is slowly what happens is your family gets put in the back burner, and you think to yourself, I'm doing this for my family. But your husband or your wife is miserable because you're not around. Your kids don't see you anymore, but at least you're making money for them. But people aren't necessarily happy with money, right? Over time, money just becomes this thing that you're used to. So people need to spend time with people. That's the whole point of getting married. So I wish people would stop pursuing a high-paying job just to neglect their family, and in the end, the family falls apart, So that's why one of the things we promised each other, even when we were teaching, is that we would never try to pursue head teacher, vice principal, superintendent. I said, I'm not interested in that kind of money, Simon. So if you are the kind of person to climb the ladder, if you want to be the VP and you want to make lots of money and spend all your time at work, then this isn't going to work.
Forget about it.
So something we agreed upon. Make sure you agree upon that before you get married.
Okay, now I'm going to go deeper into your soul.
Okay.
Great answer, sir. Can you think of a moment or situation where your love was tested? What did you do? Or a moment where you realized, yes, this is who I want to be with. I know you kind of answered that before, but can you think of a specific moment where your love was possibly tested, and what did you do?
Tested. Can't really think of, no.
Since we've been married, I never doubted for a second that we are going to be married with each other. It's like, I know that sometimes work is very overwhelming for us when we get backlogged on videos or whatnot, and we're like, holy crap, we have to work so hard. Sometimes that tests our stress levels, but never our love for each other. That's not a question. Ever, for me at least.
No, not for me either.
Well,
no, never.
So,
I mean, I think the reason why that never comes up is because we're very big on communication with each other. That's another thing that I would give for advice-wise. With anyone, friends, family, relationship. For us, when it comes to a marriage at least, that's supposed to be the one person that you're the safest with. So safer than your family, you can tell them anything. And so if I feel upset about something, I never let it dwell inside of me and hold it down. But I used to, when I was dating people, I was afraid to tell them what I was thinking. Or when I was, first dating Simon, I was nervous about how he would react. But once we got married, we had an open communication line constantly.
There's full transparency between us.
And if you have that, then there's never that grudging feeling what's your problem, or why are you being like this, and then an explosion of grumbles. If you let the person know how you're feeling right away, or if you say you know, I'm feeling really upset because, you know, you didn't hang the laundry and I've done like this 400 times. Can you please do this? Means a lot to me. Like, and you communicate, not scream, but communicate. Then you make an effort to whatever the person communicated, you make an effort to listen to it and then make that change. And so that's why we've never had like a testing point, because we just listen to each other and then make the change.
We're like, hey,
you know?
this situation sucks. What can we do to fix it? Not like, hey, this situation sucks. I'm not sure if I love you anymore. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah,
like if there's a difficult situation, we fix the situation, but we know that we are the constant no matter what.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if that's a crappy answer.
No. It's actually a perfect answer. And there is no perfect answer, you know? Can you like think of a specific moment where you said, yeah, Simon's the guy for me? Or yeah,
Interesting, you should say that.
Is the woman for the rest of my life.
Okay, so my answer is going to be very different than Simon's answer.
Yeah.
So when I met Simon, I was actually dating someone who I thought was the person I was going to marry. Like, I mean, we didn't talk about marriage all the time, but this was like the guy that I knew since I was a kid, and I'm like, this is who I'm marrying. Didn't think about Simon at all. Didn't find him attractive. No offense, honey. I was dating someone else. Didn't look at him, like tried to set him up with one of my friends. I didn't even notice him. Like, we were just friends. But then the more that my boyfriend at the time started to like suck, yeah, he really sucked. The more he started to suck, the more I started to see Simon being such a sweet guy. And he was never that kind of creepy guy who was trying to like creep in on another girl. He was trying to date my friend who I was trying to set him up with. And the moment that my friend started to play Simon for another guy, she's like, well, I really like Simon, but I really like this other guy who was a huge jerk, by the way. I was like, how can you do that to Simon? Like, he's been nothing but sweet. He's this nice guy. He's awesome. He's good looking. He plays basketball. Like, I listed off all these qualities.
No, keep going.
He smells really nice.
Okay.
He's good at cooking.
Yep.
He is clever and
I
has
like
better
this.
scores than me in school. Anyways,
Okay.
after that, that's when it clicked for me. Like, oh my gosh, do I like Simon? And that's when I realized I couldn't stay.
Dreamweaver,
I believe you can get me through the night. Any Wayne's World fans
No.
out
Okay.
there? But yeah, so that was the moment for me. But that was like more than 6 months. That was like almost the end of the school year. That was like almost a year of me being with another guy and then being like, wow, this guy is not for me.
It was 6 months.
Simon's
We
like
met
6 months, 2
September-
weeks.
September 12th. So then we started
He's
dating
really
at the
good
end of
with
March.
these.
So October, November, December, January, February, March. Okay, 7 months. You're right. It's more than 6 months. It was 7 months.
I'm just
There
saying.
you go.
So this situation, nice guys don't finish last then.
There you go.
That's right.
It worked out.
But the point that I'm getting at is that a lot of girls think like, well, I just didn't feel that
You
click.
must have that instantly. Like
know?
as soon as you lay eyes on him, if you've never met him before, then you must just know your soul must call out
and
to
people
you.
say things like, well, I mean, he has to be attractive to you. I agree with that. You can't have a healthy relationship with someone if you're not attracted to them. But because I was dating someone else, I had no physical attraction to Simon. So like all those things on the checklist of things of getting married, I had none of them. It wasn't until much later on that we developed a friendship that I fell in love with Simon. And then it just got bigger from there. So how about you, Simon?
I know when I first was attracted to Martina. It was in our romantic poetry and prose class.
It's going to be an embarrassing story.
It is embarrassing. You should be embarrassed. And I was an ultra mega English literature nerd. Like I had all the material read before the semester started. I read all the secondary material before the semester started because I thought I was going to be a professor when I grew up. Like that was my calling. And I was so freaking into reading books.
Front row and center, hand going up, Hermione Granger.
I remember, so like one of the first classes that we had, we were discussing a poem about a ruined castle. And, you know, the professor opened it up to discussion and, you know, I raised my hand and I, you know, talked about, you know, different secondary material that I read and how I thought it, you know, fell into this field of like literary theory and I was as pretentious as humanly possible. And then Martina raised her hand and she's like, this kind of reminds me of that scene from Lord of the Rings when Gandalf and he brought all the guys down and the Rivendell and they
battled the Balrog. It was the Balrog. You shut up first.
And I looked over Martina and there she was, you know, with her like tight black. No, they weren't tight. They were like I don't know. Remember the fit of them. You had black jeans and they had chains all over them and you had your lip piercing back then.
It was
and
my
I'm
Rocky gothy.
This girl is so hot. And I'm like, I definitely want to get to know this girl so much more because like I was.
And then Simon was like, hey.
Yeah, I was
He
such a
wasn't.
pretentious ass back then. So I was able to speak to Martina and it was really fun. So, you know, I developed a really good friendship with her. And then I thought to myself, I would probably never get to be with her, you know, for the rest of my life. But she's a really cool person. So I'd like to just like know her as a friend. And then when it turned out that we did start dating each other, like, I'm never going to let this stop. I'm never going to let this fail. I'm going to do everything that I can to maintain this relationship and make her as happy as I could possibly
You've
make
done a
her.
great job. 잘했어요, 여보.
Boom! But like a lot of times we do want to have fun with
Yeah,
our
we want
music,
people to like
you know?
watch the video and like leave having a good laugh, but that was nothing to laugh over.
No.
No.
We weren't entertained by the video whatsoever.
No.